Monday, can you believe it or not? So thank you very much for showing up at 10 a.m. this morning for PodCamp Toronto. What I'm going to be doing this morning is talking a little bit about digital marketing, and I want this to be an interactive session. Many of you are here, maybe you're getting into social and digital marketing for the first time, maybe you have your own business or side hustle, or maybe you're just looking to build your personal brand. What I'm covering today is 9 different trends that are actually impacting us today, whether it be from a personal brand perspective or from a corporate perspective, and it's just to get you up to speed and also to begin a conversation. So here's what I want from you today. As we kind of go through the digital trends, I want you to kind of think, has your company or have you on a personal level used any of these trends in the last 12 to 24 months? Or are you planning on using it in 2019? And I'd love for you to kind of put up your hand or even just share those examples with us. I also have several examples as well. The goal is we want to make this a collaborative session, not just a one-sided presentation. How does that sound, everybody? Good? Good. Should I bring in more coffee? Give up the room? All right, so let's get started. So just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I'm Angela. My trade is in digital marketing. So I kind of live and breathe this space every single day. But a lot of times I get asked the question, what are this year's hottest trends? And in many ways, it's very hard to answer because there's a lot going on and digital marketing is a vast landscape. But what I've done is narrowed it down to what I think are the 9 major trends. So today we're going to focus on top trends. We're going to talk a little bit about AI voice search. We're going to talk about social, and we're also going to talk about dark social. And I know dark social sounds worse than it is, but it's actually going to surprise you if you don't know what it is. And we're also going to talk about visual search and how you can boost the SEO value out of that. So as a marketer, what do I see every day? Well, this is what most people in the field have to contend with. Not only do they have to think about an idea and then bring it to market and grow their market share, they also have this incredibly vast array of different mediums that they have to, distribute their message through. So you've got multi-channel analytics, content marketing, SEO, PPC, which is paid advertising, social media marketing, community management, social ads, and don't forget about email marketing, which is kind of the linchpin of most digital marketing for most organizations. That's a lot. That's a lot to take in. But as a marketer, one thing I've learned early is you don't want to be doing more. You don't want to do all of those things that I just showed you. What you want to do is you want to be a smarter. You want to be really, really smart about which channels you choose to engage in and how you do that. The other thing you want to think about is if it's a company that you're here for or a side hustle or even your brand, you want to think about who you're communicating to and what message you're communicating, right? So if you're a business or you have a side hustle, where do your customers hang out online? If they're on Pinterest, but you're advertising on LinkedIn, then maybe you kind of have to rethink your strategy. It's not about being on all platforms, it's about being very, very specific and targeted on the platforms that you're on. So I want you to kind of come with me. We're all going to become smarters today. And the first trend I want to cover is artificial intelligence. So how many of you kind of think of this or variation of this or even the Jetson bots when you think of artificial intelligence? Put your hand, because I do. Yeah. There's so many misconceptions I find about artificial intelligence, but it's an exciting field. It's fairly new-ish, I say, because it's been around since the 50s and been evolving since World War II. But in the last 10 years, it's really, really grown. And there's some terms that I find, we kind of throw around but don't fully understand. So I thought I would start with the basics. What is artificial intelligence? And then what is machine learning? So with artificial intelligence, it is part of computer science. It actually tries to simulate part of human intelligence, but in a way, it's allowing you, the user, to interact with both your real environment and your virtual environment. That's what it is in a nutshell. And right now, today, it's being used at a very basic level. So it's being used for text translation, it's being used for labeling, And it's also being used for more advanced information, so robotics, computer gaming, and data management. And some of you may also be aware of information search. So think about voice search, think about your Google Home, Corona. We're actually going to get into that a little more in detail, but there are applications of AI that are actually impacting your life right now, and you may not realize it. Then there's this thing called machine learning, or ML. You're probably going to hear about this a lot in the upcoming years. So with machine learning, it's basically, you're taking an algorithm and you're trying to achieve a very specific task, a well-defined task. And at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is to take that data and to improve different types of system performance. That's what it is in a nutshell. And how it's being used in marketing, because we're talking about digital marketing today, is say you want to try to find where your customers are buying and what kind of buying behaviors they're using. So what you can do is you can actually use machine learning to help you gather and analyze that data. Same thing if you have customer complaints, right? Great example, think of the TTC, think about the number of complaints that they get. They could probably use something like machine learning, I don't know if they already are, to kind of gain understanding of what are the most common complaints or even compliments that they get from their customers. So again, this is kind of the Jetsons robot that I think about. But a couple of other things to think about artificial intelligence is right now, because it's an emerging field, a lot of the times there are actually shortages in the skill sets. So this is actually, if you're interested in IT or cybersecurity, there's a lot of different job opportunities that are available in this field. So you could work as a linguist, meaning you're actually helping the bot learn a specific language, or you could be a developer. But at the end of the day, if you're in marketing, the way artificial intelligence might impact you is you're also making sure that you're using it for personalization and automation. And again, this is just a quick visual. So a lot of times people, and even myself when I was first starting the field, I was trying to understand where does everything fit within a bucket. I love this example because you've got artificial intelligence as a field, and then within it you have machine learning, and then within that you have deep learning. So again, if you're new to this field, this is a great visual to start with. But going back to marketing, how else is this used? Well, we talked about the smart assistants, right? Siri, Google Home, Corona. You've got even spam filters. A lot of email marketing programs or automation programs use bots to help them identify spam filters. Google is actually using it for email categorization, so smart reply, you may have heard of it. Small things like voice-to-text features, and then autoresponders. So have you ever been on a website, and then you go to the bottom of the page, and there's like this little chat box that pops up, and it says, do you have any questions today? Well, either, if you're asking a question, it's either going to a live customer service representative, or it might be going to a bot. So it's interesting to kind of do that. And then for some businesses who are getting into it, they're also doing business forecasting. This list is much, much longer, but this is more focused on the marketing side. So how is it used in a broader context, just to kind of help you understand? If you think about self-driving cars, you probably saw a couple of articles in the last 12, 14 months about Google and other companies kind of testing self-driving cars. So if you think about it, all of the technology that kind of goes into the smart cars are based, are a version of artificial intelligence, right? They're using radar sonar, video cameras, they've got a central computer system, radar sensors. So it's a fascinating field. If you're interested in that, I would highly recommend looking it up. Another one is, most of us like to fly to get to our destination of choice for travel. But a lot of people don't realize that artificial intelligence also impacts us on a day-to-day level. So if we're doing searches on prices, there's something called flexible pricing, where your price is actually driven up or down based on a dynamic pricing model. It's an algorithm employed by the airlines. And so what ends up happening is, it depends on a whole bunch of factors. I've actually listed a couple here, but there's one that was a page long. So it could be your taxes, it could be your location, it could be your seat preferences. But based on where you're sitting, where you're going, and other factors, that may drive your price of ticket up or down. And that's actually an example of how that's being used. So any questions on artificial intelligence, or maybe any stories that you'd like to share about AI that you've been using or are thinking of using for yourself? Nothing yet? Too early?
I used artificial intelligence to create an Android app to identify cat breeds.
And how did that work?
That's what he's going to show you.
No, it doesn't work unless somebody has a cat.
Everybody a cat here.
Yeah.
That's great. So maybe after when we do the breakout session after,
Yeah.
if you have examples that you want to show,
I've done some of
as
the
well.
programming. I've done AI programming.
So you're a developer, you do
Yes,
programming. That's fantastic. Well, and you're right, it's also using an example of artificial intelligence is helping you identify. All right, so next trend that's coming up is voice search. And I thought this radio would be a great example, even though I didn't really do any voice search. Because what ends up happening, and these are a whole bunch of statistics, but to summarize it, what's happening right now across all demographic groups is a lot of people are using voice search, whether it be through voice assistants or other means, even their cell phone. And you'll notice in the red that millennials are actually the largest group of adopters. But every other group is growing year over year. And what's happening as well is, right now we have stats for the US, but that's continuing to grow. So in the US, and I'm hoping to find also Canadian data as well, they're looking at how over half of households owning a speaker in the next, in the next 3 years. That's a significant increase in voice search.
Most of those baby boomers are the parents of Gen Xers who got our parents. They're always complaining in the weather. It's so hard to find the internet. So
Yeah.
I got my dad who's going to Google Home now.
Yeah, there you go. It's either you get it as a gift or you buy it
The kids
yourself.
talk the parents into them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fascinating trend though, right? So many of you recognize this already, right? You've got Amazon and Google products. But right now, what's happening, because this is so new, a lot of companies and also consumers are just using voice search to help find information. So you might say something like, hey Google, what's the weather like outside today? And we'll get, today you're gonna get spring, summer, and fall, all in one, right? Along with 110 kilometer winds. So stay safe when you're out there. But there's much more that can be involved in that. So, again, this is US, because they have the biggest amount of data. But if you look at how people are searching music, they're asking for music, weather, fun questions on random online searches. They're asking to put alarms. Hey, Google, set an alarm for 7 p.m. Checking the news, even making phone calls. And then they're doing other things like scheduling. And then at the very bottom, they might be doing things like shopping online and ordering, which sounds very surprising, but it does happen. Gaming, food delivery, and then hotel and flight search. So it's actually really fascinating. If you want to see the full list, I'm going to put the presentation up, and I've linked all of the images with the image credits, so you can look into it a little further if there's a slide or a specific area that interests you. So again, this is more you. Go ahead.
I'm just curious. I don't know any of those utilities, but where are people physically when they're typically doing a voice search?
Yeah, great question. So
Based on that, I'm guessing home.
a lot of it is home, and it's really interesting with this data. If you go to the link that I provided, they actually tell you where in the home they are. So sometimes it might be the bedroom. Most time it's in a family room. Sometimes it's in the dining room. And again, the data is rather subjective, right, because they're surveying respondents, but it's really interesting if you want to dive a little deeper to kind of get a sense of what frame of mind people are in when they're actually doing those searches. Another thing as well, and I'm putting this up just to kind of show you the shifting landscape. So again, this is with US consumers, they have the most amount of data right now. But where do people prefer to shop, right? So physical, going to a bricks and mortar store is still the #1 way that most people shop. So roughly about 2/3. But what's happening right now, and we've seen this, you've probably seen articles around this, e-commerce is taking over a lot of that. So roughly around 26% of people are going to e-commerce. Think of Amazon, think of larger online retailers, and they're shopping that way. And then followed by that, we have mobile devices. So less than 8% shop through their mobile device. And then a very tiny segment of that, around 3%, is a smart speaker. Well, what they're anticipating is that that percentage is going to continue to grow. So it is an emerging trend. So it's interesting to kind of see it right now because it's so new. We anticipate that it will also continue to grow over the next 3 to 5 years as more people adopt smart speakers and get more comfortable with voice search as well. So any questions on, or any examples you want to maybe share of voice search? Maybe have you used it, how you adopted it? Yeah.
I can see using voice to make a purchase, but you can't make comparison shop by voice.
Well, you can in a way, but it requires some work. Like say, for example, you wanted to know 2 different types of chairs. You might have to ask your smart speaker, tell me a little bit more about this type of chair and then this type of chair. And then in your mind, you would have to comparison shop. But you're absolutely right. On a screen, it's easier because you can type in this chair versus this chair. And if something like Google or Bing, it will actually come up with a comparison and reviews. So it's harder, it takes more work right now on voice search.
I'm also thinking between vendors.
That's right, but you also have to do more work on your end.
Alexa isn't pointing you anywhere else.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with, it's just evolving, and also companies don't realize that they need to adopt their information online to voice search. And so that's why sometimes what you hear through your speaker might be the number one item that's ranked through the search engine.
They must have done research on what people are buying. I assume that they're repeat purchases or things you've always bought, or I forgot this, can you buy this? Alexa, please order this, and they ordered it all the time. They done research on that?
They've done research on that. Definitely recommend going to the website. Most of it is low-end items, right? So usually things that are under $100. Right now, I think it's a little too, the technology is still too new to do more high-touch purchases. But it's definitely an interesting point, right? I haven't seen any data as to whether or not it's repeat purchases. I think that's something worth looking into.
Repeat only because you know what you're buying. Not so much repeat, but repeat.
Yeah.
I know what I'm buying, I bought before.
Yeah, like you can set it on Amazon, and if you're ordering 5, cans of beans, and say, oh, you're ordering 5
Kitty
cans.
litter.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. That's probably what I expect that 3.2 is probably Alexa users.
Yeah.
You're in the bathroom, you realize you're down to 1 roll of toilet paper.
Yeah.
You just say Alexa or toilet paper.
Yeah.
No, people like it. Doing it that way or other stuff.
Then the drone comes in.
Toilet paper
Is voice search interactive? Like if I ordered a book on Amazon, would it ask me if I wanted it delivered next day for this amount of money or 6 to 10 days for this amount of money?
It really depends on how most companies have programmed it. Most of the times it's one way you're directing it. You might say something like, I'm interested in this, and then it'll list some options. Oh, I want to buy this in this quantity. So you're kind of guiding the conversation. But if a company you can do some more tuning on the back end. So it's really how most companies have also structured that as well. Yeah, that's that. And actually, I'm glad you bring that up, right? Because there's opportunity there for businesses who really want to get into that space as well, since voice search is growing. Yes, go ahead.
As a marketer, though, is there not a concern that for a company like Alexa or even for Google, when the shopping is all in one place, if they'll consider that kind of trend information proprietary to them, where they'll be able to know what the trends are, what people are buying, and not necessarily want to divulge that publicly? Is there going to be a threat here that marketers are going to have less access to that kind of data unless they believe the one source?
I mean, that's always a concern as a marketer, right? Because in a way, and we'll get into this in some of the other trends, where you're using other companies and relying on that data to make decisions on your buying behavior and your personas. I don't necessarily know right now with this. I don't know what the trend is or what the companies are going to do, but that's also something that I'm concerned about when I'm doing something as simple as Google, right? Google Analytics, even Facebook. A couple years ago, we faced some issues with the data that was being reported. And as marketers, I'm using their system to make informed decisions about my consumers. And then they had to shift the algorithm a little bit. So that there's always that in the back of my mind. But I don't know right now what they're thinking about the future. The biggest companies, right? Google and
I think what you have to look at, like in 2 of them, Alexa exists for the most part to make it easier to order off of Amazon. Google ultimately exists to get you on the Google network so they can learn more about you and better serve you ads.
Yeah.
You know, but Google's not in it to sell stuff. They're in it to, it's more of a, to get you on the network.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll notice as well, and this is kind of going a little off topic, but you'll notice as well with Google, over the Christmas holidays, if you're down at the Eaton Center or some of the major shopping locations, they were kind of dropping the prices of the mini Google Home
50%
speakers.
of both.
Yeah, around $35, $40 with the environmental tax, and that's because they really want to increase their market penetration and upselling to other homes. All right, so I know this is a fascinating topic, but I also want to introduce you to something called the micro moment. Now, many of you may or may not know Chair Girl, and if you don't, this could be a micro moment, and you'll understand why in a second when I go to the next slide. Feel free to pull out any device and do a search on Chair Girl if you'd like to understand this reference a little further. So many of you are probably wondering, okay, well, what's a micro moment? So a micro moment is, this is the actual definition that Google uses, intent-rich moment. Someone uses a device to act on a need to know. So I just kind of gave you one of those moments, right? Chair Girl. You either know, someone told you, or you saw it, or you don't know. So you're going to pull out your phone and kind of maybe do a search to learn a little more. So how does this work, and why is it relevant? A lot of times we have devices on us, right? We have a tablet most of the time. We have a smartphone. Most likely, it's kind of our second wallet, even more important than a wallet for most of us. So you have to, learn how to do something, or maybe you're looking up a definition, or maybe you have to figure out, where to go. Or maybe you're trying to figure out what to buy. Maybe you're in a store and you saw a great sweater, but you don't know if it's at a better price down the street, so you're going to whip out your phone and maybe do some research while you're in the store. Well, you may not have realized it, but you're actually engaging in a micro moment. So a great example of this is if you pull out your phone right now and you're trying to figure out how to get from here to maybe, last night, if you're trying to get to the party, when you do a search, if you had Google Maps on you, one option that might have popped up is Uber or Lyft. And what both companies have done is they've worked with Google to integrate that information into Google Maps. And that's actually a great example of a micro moment. So any other examples on micro moments before we move on? Or anything you'd like to share, maybe a micro moment that you've experienced in the last week? If I go back to that definition right there. Okay, well go ahead and think about it, because you may not realize it, but there's probably a lot of micro moments that happen throughout the day. So, the most anticipated trend of the year, dark social. And no, it's not having to do with Galaxy, because I love that background image. So how many of you know what dark social is? No? Okay, this is going to be fun. So dark social is not what it sounds like. Essentially what it is it sounds very nefarious, but it isn't. Essentially what it is say, for example, yesterday you went online and you saw this great article about, maybe about this new car, and you then want to share it with your friends. So you pull your, open one of your apps, and then you share it through email, through text, or maybe through one of the private chat messages. You've actually engaged in something called dark social. And this is fairly new. So The Atlantic in 2012 coined it, one of their editors coined it. And the reason it matters in digital marketing is because in marketing, we're always trying to track where our traffic goes. So for example, if I write a blog article, what happens with the user once they kind of find that information? Do they share it on their Twitter feed? Do they put it on maybe on their Facebook page? But if it goes dark, if it goes into a private account, it is really hard to track that information. We have no idea. So what ends up happening a lot of times as a marketer, if you go to Google Analytics, you might actually see a direct source, and the word direct might have a really, really high percentage. And that may be related to dark social. So that's why if you're getting into digital marketing or you want to know more about that space, it's just really important to know what that is. And even Hootsuite kind of did a study, and they found that around 84% of outbound sharing, so 84% of sharing, may go through dark social, based on some of their estimates. So again, this is another example from like Radian 1, right? So they're even saying, yeah, around 84% of sharing activity is done through dark social, around 9% through Facebook, and then 7% through other public social media networks. So it's fairly high. So how do you combat this? There's a couple of different ways you can do it. A lot of it has to do with building your personal brand or building your company brand. And what a lot of people are starting to do is they've already done this, they're engaging with their audience, is you want to interact and you want to keep your audience engaged. So a lot of people do that by creating a Facebook page, they might do a video to answer Q&As, they might do discussion forums, and they also make sure that they follow up with their audience, right? So if you have a very active comment section, you just don't kind of leave it hanging, unless it's a troll. What you want to do is you want to have a conversation. If it's genuine, you kind of want to have a conversation back and forth, because what you're doing is you're connecting with the individual, and it shows that you as an individual or you as a brand actually do care. You also want to consider running ads on dark social. So a lot of people don't realize this, but you can actually do advertising on Facebook Messenger or on Gmail. So those are two ways to kind of start to, I don't want to say fight back, but maybe start to engage in dark social more as a digital marketer, so you're also present in that space.
What about other messaging platforms? Like, I know WhatsApp was like experimenting with some kind of advertising platform. You know what?
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about WhatsApp. Haven't really used it yet because it's still in the experimentation stage. But I know there are some other apps as well that are kind of testing that. So I would definitely keep your ears open, especially if your consumer is in that space or you think they're in that space. Definitely do some research and find out, because you might get a better, getting technical here, you might get a better cost per click or a better conversion for your audience than if you were using maybe Facebook to put it on there. Yeah.
WhatsApp is being bought by Facebook and it's being rolled into Messenger, so researching it now is probably not worth it. So it will just, I'm sure it will just get absorbed in the board.
Yes, go ahead.
If you're buying ads on Facebook Messenger or Gmail, can you use the same type of targeting as, say, buying just a plain ordinary ad on Facebook?
Yeah. So come up after the talk and I'll actually show you the different platforms and just so you can see what they look like as well. It's actually really interesting what you can do in terms of targeting. It'll be interesting with WhatsApp too. Once it goes through with Facebook, if they integrate it as part of their ad purchasing software, to make it easier on the consumer as well. And again, two examples here, just kind of maybe hit home, right? So this is CNN. Here you're kind of seeing an example of more private messages going on with individuals, and then here CNN has kind of personalized some of their messages about keeping them up to speed about maybe news that they've subscribed to for a specific section. This is more of the e-commerce space. Teaks, so here they've launched a spring line kind of coming out, and they're sending more of a private message based on research that they've done. So it's a personalized offer. Okay, so we this is kind of leading into this next trend, which is social media private groups, right? So dark social is influencing this example right here, but what's happening a lot of times with social media is brands are recognizing that they need to build a better relationship with their users or fans. And what they're doing is they're actually leveraging private groups to do that. And they're also leveraging, we call it the feelings of FOMO, right? So fear of missing out, which is basically kind of playing on the human psychology element. And what they're doing is creating private groups. And this is just another Hootsuite statistic. But just kind of showing that 50% of respondents want more personalized content. And so the way you can do that is by setting up maybe secret Facebook accounts or even things like Twitter chats for your members or your fans. So you might see that with some brands where, and I'm trying to think of one that maybe I can share with you that's pretty simple. Okay, so say you sign up for more information about company X. You sign up for their email, right? Sometimes what will happen is you then get a follow-up email as part of an automated string, and it invites you to join a private Facebook group. And And then within the private Facebook group, they're helping you build a connection. And sometimes what they'll do is they'll try to upsell you to one of their more expensive products. So you might start off free and then they'll try to upsell you once they've started to build a relationship. That's an example of one. There's so many different variations of this. Some brands may choose to keep it more free as opposed to trying to upgrade you or upsell you, just to kind of nurture and make sure that they're building that online community. So any other examples of this before I jump to the next trend? Yeah, go for it.
For my organization, we're an advocacy organization. Part of our strategy is actually we have connections in those private groups, and when we have new information that we want spread, we send it to them, and it tends to do really well.
That's great. So can you maybe share a little bit about how you get the user into that private group in the first place?
They're a little more apt to just invite us in because we're an advocacy organization.
Yeah.
So we actually know them from other real world organizations that we're part of. That's great. Invite us in. So that we can share.
And I like how you're using the example of more advocacy and information sharing, which is a great example of a private group, right? And I'm assuming the groups are like very focused.
Yeah.
Are they split up by areas of interest or information? Like how are the groups kind of organized?
So we're for kids and health solutions that we advocate for. So we go for parents groups, professional groups, people who are involved in the
That's great. Any other examples? Yes, go ahead.
We're in a situation where there's a number of groups supporting what we do, but they were created by fans, not by us. And I'm not sure, like, if that's a kind of double-edged sword, I guess, because there's a loss of control, but it's also very organically created. So it's good in that sense, but we're not in control of it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of things that happen online, sometimes as a brand, you may not be full control of, but if you've got very, passionate fans, they can also be your advocates as well. So maybe it's great to be aware of it. Maybe you don't want to try to influence it in any way, just kind of be aware of what's going on. But they can also be your best advocates as well. That's a great example.
There's a great book out, Think Like a Rock Star, that deals with similar concepts there.
Do you remember the author as well? Just for those that
I looked it up.
Yeah, no, this is all great information. That's why I like to do more of a discussion, because each of us kind of holds a piece to the puzzle, and it also helps you find examples that you think might be more relevant to you as well. All right, next.
Mark
trend.
Collier. So.
Which one? Sorry, go ahead.
Mark Collier.
Mark Collier.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know the author, so.
No, that's
What's it called
great.
again?
It's called Think Like a Rock Star.
Think Like a Rockstar by Mark Collier.
Yeah, COLLIER.
All right, so next trend is bots. So this is a cute looking bot, very harmless. But a lot of times what's happening right now is we have messaging bots that are being used to communicate with us. It is a variation of artificial intelligence that I mentioned at the very beginning. So a lot of times when you go to a website, you see a little icon at the bottom of the screen, and then you might be communicating maybe with a live agent, or you might be communicating with a bot. There's also examples of that with texting. So if you're at a conference, sometimes if you're sending questions, there may be a bot on the other end trying to answer those questions for you. So this is actually fairly new. A great example of this, it was done by Relay. It kind of shows that a lot of companies that are engaging in chatbots, especially with B2B, are fairly early adopters. The vast majority of B2B sites don't have a chatbot. So that's good to know if you're looking to get into the space. They've also been dubbed modern communicators, or it means they're communicating back and forth, they're facilitating the conversation. And the reason most companies have not adopted them yet is because most providers right now just have more simple prompts back and forth. They are getting more advanced. But customers really crave those natural conversations. And so I'm wondering on my end, I know with companies that I work with clients, those that have adopted it has good success, but there might be some trepidation from companies going, oh, am I going to lose customers because they know they're not talking to someone real, they're talking with a bot. So there might be an element of just, they're not necessarily too familiar with the space.
How would they know that how we can bot as opposed to
Usually says so.
Yeah, so with the clients that I've worked with, the ones that have integrated chatbots, it's all about programming on the back end. So if it goes well, the customer will never know that they're talking with the chatbot. The way it can break down though is if the customer is asking maybe a more complicated question, and maybe a bot goes back with maybe a canned response that may not be as relevant, then it starts to get more obvious that there is a chatbot on the other end and not a real person. That's where maybe the customer can start to tell. And that's why some B2B clients hesitate to use it. It's because they want to, if they've built up a fan base or an audience base, they don't want to make them feel that they're not having those natural conversations online.
Some of the, I was looking at putting up one of those on the website to handle just basic questions, and it did start by saying, I'm an automated, not a chatbot, but I'm not a real person. Here's some basic responses, and the company I was looking at using, it was set up more for really basic questions, more towards if you had products on your website. So, does this come in red? Yes or no? Do you have 10 of these? Can I do that? It was just set up so someone could get an answer right now, and it didn't need an attendant to actually be there taking all the responses. So it's more for smaller companies where you just don't have the staff.
Yeah. But that's a great way to use it. If you're a really small team or even a startup company or a small company, this might be a great solution to kind of handle those day-to-day questions, the mundane questions, to kind of take pressure off your staff. And then the staff can handle more complex questions that might come up.
It was just all the basic, and it would flow on any page that someone landed on. So if they had a quick question, instead of searching your site, it was just like, tell me this now. Okay, no problem. Have a nice day. Can we call you later type of thing. I want to know more information, but it was up front that, you're not talking to us.
And then a live person can follow up if need be with the customer. I like that. It's a great example. Any other examples of chatbots that you've seen or experienced or even that you've used or set up for a company? Yes, go ahead.
I actually use it a lot with Facebook themselves, just trying to understand their customer service with Facebook.
Yeah.
And they're pretty on the ball. They tell you how long the wait's going to be. It's very accurate. So I thought that's one way to contact Facebook.
Yeah, that's a great example to kind of share. Another example to kind of share with that as well is actually, they've been purchased by Shopify, but it's called the Kit. And what they do is they use to communicate information. So it's kind of a little blurry, but here's an example that you can see. They're asking a set of questions and then you respond back. Then they ask you a further set of questions and then they'll send you an example of what you're looking at. So there are a whole bunch of different variations on this. When was it? In October, I was at a conference and I had a question about a specific workshop that was coming up. So I just texted them and I realized right away it was a bot. Because it kind of used a similar layout where it had a question and then I responded and then it asked me another question and then it's almost like multiple choice. It gave me the information I needed. It was super quick. But you could tell right away that it was an automated bot. So there's a lot of fascinating uses for this.
Isn't this just a text version of all those awful interactions you have by phone with a bank or Canada or whatever? It just seems like a textual extension of that kind of press. And our menu has changed since last time. I don't know what it was last time.
Yeah.
But you go through these, this just seems like a text version of those, and I'm not sure that's progress.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you bring up the example of, talking to a customer service agent, because the great thing about this is it won't tell you that their menu options have changed. And with most bots that I've interacted with, I get the information back in a much quicker amount of time, and I also don't have to wait on hold for 45 minutes to speak to a live agent. That's the difference. It really depends on how the company programs it, but if it's done right, if you have a specific question and it's rather straightforward, I would rather text and get an answer in a few minutes than try to get on the phone with someone in 45 minutes. Yeah, and it really depends as well on the user experience. Some people, again, may not like this, based on preference or even based on consumer group, but it's definitely a great option to consider if you have an audience that kind of hangs out in this space. All right, live stories. This is it looks like a really great concert. I don't know what concert it is, but I'm going to raise my hand out of excitement. So what's happening right now is you've probably seen this on all the social media platforms. Live stories and live videos are everywhere. So YouTube does it, Facebook does it, Instagram does it. A lot of people like it because it helps you build a really strong relationship with your fans and with your followers because you have to be authentic. You can't really hide behind an edited video. It's very raw and very real. It's showing an authentic version of yourself. To get kind of more technical, the way most people refer to this is they call it, a lot of people call it prepackaged content for the past. I call it in the moment content, but essentially the way it's growing is if you look at Instagram stories, this is from entrepreneur.com, but they have 200 million Instagram users that use Instagram stories every single month. And if you look at the time that they spend on the platform, it's actually gone from 15 minutes to 32 minutes a day. And they're attributing that, this is their own data, they're attributing that to Instagram stories. So that's a very significant amount of time that people are spending online. If we look at Facebook, which is another huge behemoth, we're looking at 3.5 billion Facebook live broadcasts. That's a huge amount. And if you look year over year, right, so this is 2016 going into the end of 2018, you can also see that year over year, those live broadcasts have doubled since 2016. So this trend is not going away. It's huge. And again, another way of kind of looking at this is, what are people looking for in these types of engagements? So a lot of times when you're trying to show authenticity and transparency, it kind of goes with, answering questions, maybe, being very honest about specific issues, and live social and live video kind of go along with that. It just shows the transparency and honesty that you can have. So any examples on your end about maybe live stories that you've used, or even live video? Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that I use for my clients when we do live video, we like to, if we have a 3-minute live video, we like to create an audience based on how long they watch the video so that we can retarget and target the customer again. So that's one way we're using it for Facebook Live.
I like it. So it's like a data collection
Yeah,
in a way.
Yes.
Very smart.
I've noticed that when we do live streams, the day before, I can usually make a little promo video and just saying we're scheduled tomorrow at 8 o'clock, tune in live. So then what happens is that, people think, so I'll make sure I'll be on Facebook to catch it. And I've done a test where I did do a teaser and then I did do a teaser, and the teaser definitely secures your audience to a much higher engagement.
That's great, because in the back of their mind, they're going, oh, you're going to be online at this time. I'm going to turn to my phone and turn it on. That's fantastic. I saw a hand here.
Yeah, we live broadcasted just a conference panel we did. There were 400 people in attendance and 1,200 online.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, just people wanted to, can't get there, couldn't devote a whole day. This is the sort of thing that if it was live cast, we'd probably be surprised by the number of people who would watch.
But that's fantastic, because not only are you engaging your physical members, maybe next year when they can't attend, they'll remember that connection that you built with them online as well. I love that information. It's great. Any other examples of live video or live stories?
I have a question, but also, I used it to also promo like live on my podcast. I've broadcasted live while podcasting. It's not something, I did it once or twice, but I'm not sure I can handle both, like controlling video and Instagram and also like taking care of the production. But sometimes I get discouraged when I'm doing my lives and like nobody's there, and so I think I've noticed obviously consistency helps. Like if I'm doing live and people know and they're interested, they'll show up. I have those people who look at the live after, and I'm just wondering, because sometimes I've seen new people pop up with the live, so how is that working in terms of reach versus like my regular story that I would post?
Yeah, great question. It really depends on the platform and their algorithm, and how they set it up, and it also depends on your audience base and kind of where it's sitting. So there's a number of different factors. If you're interested, I can send you some research that I use to kind of help set up my live stories and my live videos as well, based on the platform. The other thing too, and this came up as an example, is promoting it. it's a lot, because literally you're running a marketing campaign just to do a live video. But kind of thinking about, okay, when is your audience online? You may need to do some testing. Maybe you promote it the day before, and if your audience is, maybe they're online when they're commuting home, maybe it's like 5:30, maybe that's when you need to go live. But you may not have enough information yet if you're growing your audience base. So a lot of this has to go back to the basics of marketing, where you're testing, you're learning more about your audience, and then you're combining that information with the platform and how they kind of manipulate their algorithms, because that might impact when they see your specific promo.
But in general, I feel like it's important, I mean, just for the work that I do, is just the relationship building. So people, like when I'm in the moment, I'm just, walking my dog, I'm talking about something, but this is who I am. So, the authenticity, it really helps.
And you're being real too. You're
Yeah.
being real, and that makes a big difference with a lot of the online audiences as well. And you said something very important as well earlier, which is consistency. So, even if you're doing it once a week or once every 2 weeks, you're being consistent about posting it. You're just doing it maybe for 3 days straight and then you stop and do it 6 months later. That's when you start building that trust as well with your audience, because you're being consistent with what you're posting.
Thank you. Is there a way you could flip back to that slide where you showed live stories? And I just wanted to take a picture.
That one? Yeah. This one here?
Well, the one with, I think the next one? That one?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I was saying, so there's some industry trainings that are like multi-day things in my industry, where they've now adopted doing live trainings as well to facilitate your continuing education points. You can't make it for the whole 3-day trip. But I noticed there's a couple of businesses, I'm going to call companies, that have said we're having a live presentation and it's only voice, and they've got a bot producing chat comments.
Yeah.
And I can say that really irritating, but now I look for ones where there's an actual real person, and I will purposely put a comment to see if they respond.
Yeah, to see that it's live.
It's really live, and I've not picked out who these groups are that are doing that, but they're saying, oh yeah, I'm live at whatever.
Yeah.
But they're pretending there's 5,000 people online, and there's a whole chat commentary going on, but they're not really.
They're almost building up a fake hype,
Yeah.
so you click on it. Yeah, and
Losing
actually,
all credibility.
yeah, and that brings it back to the original point, which is it's all about trust and building, that real relationship. And if you click through right away in the back of your mind, going, oh yeah, I'm clicking on that again,
Yeah.
because you want that real live
Yeah,
interaction.
they did completely opposite of this just because of that.
Sorry, check for time.
Yeah, we have to start turning around the room.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll take, if there are any other comments, because there was one other trend I wanted to go through. We'd probably do something in the breakout room, but for now, really wanted to thank you for showing up and learning about these digital trends. A lot of these are fascinating. You can literally on their own, they can be your own 1-hour topic. I'm literally just scratching the surface. So, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. I'll just put up my name at the very first slide. If you follow me on Twitter, just kind of look up my name, Angela LaGamba, and you'll find me there. Send me questions that you have. I'm also going to post this online and share the link with you. I'm sure PodCamp Toronto will do the same thing. Slip of tongue there, but you're more than welcome to use these slides. And what I've done as well is I've included image credits, so you can go do further research. And at the back, I've also included extra resources, so you can do more in-depth research on every single one of these topics. But at the end of the day, what I want you to take away from this is not every single thing that you're going to use is going to work. You have to think about your audience first, where your consumers are. And you don't want to do more, you just want to be a smarter with less. Okay, that's the thought I want to do. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Just very quickly,
Yeah, go ahead.
what would trends 1 and 2, just like jump?
Oh yes, absolutely.
It's okay, just no
Yeah.
worries.
So trend 1 is artificial intelligence, and then trend 2 is voice search.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah.